Okay, this is CR 7092, and we're preparing the mock conference too. So we don't have a guest speaker today, and we are just catching up. So I don't know what you want to start with. We've got to talk about the changes that you may want to make to the mock conference and adjust, a few things that you've discussed. And then we've got to organize, the speakers and perhaps discuss the rules, So I leave it to you with what you want to have first on the menu.
Should we start with the feedback then?
Yeah, Harriet?
Kindly collected.
That's exactly what I was going to say, yeah.
Okay, so shall we look at each point and then see what we can do about it? Do you want to lead the conversation, Harriet? Because you're the person who wrote the document, so maybe you've got a better understanding of where it comes from.
Sorry, let me just find it again, if that's okay.
Take your time.
Oh dear, where has it gone?
Well, you sent it to me as an email. Maybe that would be faster.
Yeah, so I'm looking at my email, but for some reason it doesn't seem to be there. I sent it, I didn't actually, I sent it to you as a Google Doc, and then I just added you as I added you with permission. But in that case, it'll be on my drive. This is a very smooth and professional start, so thank you. Right, I've got it. Okay, so maybe should I share my screen? Would it work that way to do it?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, okay. Okay. There we go. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Can you see? It wasn't tons and tons of feedback. So thank you for everyone who sent feedback, first of all. And then, yeah, so maybe we just take point by point. So there was a suggestion that there were a few interpreters, maybe not even as many as a few, who had a session in the booth and a session in the room, vice versa. And so it was quite tricky to sort of come in discreetly into the room, first of all, mid-interpretation, and also it meant that they lost a little bit of their booth interpretation because there just wasn't the time to finish that speech and then immediately move on to the next. So that was an issue, but it was more of an issue of spacing in that case, spacing interpreters apart.
That's fine. I mean, we can look at this together. I mean, for me, when I say interpreting in the booth, it's because I'm forcing you to do interpretation rather than doing it spontaneously when you wish. But it's not because it says interpreting in the booth that you have to be in the booth, and you have to do the interpretation. Obviously, the one which is officially around the table is going to require more of your attention. So this is what you need to give a priority to. So if you've got to skip the one before, and I did realize when I planned that it would be short, tight. Sometimes it's because of the language. When we had Spanish, English, so I was just trying to make sure that everybody had to go around the table and then, saying who is in the booth, and who is not in the booth. It was, I tried to make it as fair as possible to give everyone a chance, but you're free to do what you want, and if you are going to be come around the table and you can't interpret in the booth before, obviously don't, but then use another speech to interpret. But then it may not be your language, but remember you've got the recording, so you can do it later on as well. So I mean, I will obviously try to space it out, no problem. On the contrary, this is good, but I think there are times when, because of the language combination, it's difficult to have this equal spacing, but we can look at it definitely. But I knew when I did this that it would be tight for the person. But it's not like school. Remember, you make your own decisions as well.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I think that leads into this to the next point. And so in that case, there are some people, it's hard obviously because there's quite a lot of people with two and quite a lot of people with French Spanish or French German, and there's quite a lot of permutations. So I think that yes, the question was where possible, if we could try and have, but I don't know actually to what extent that would work, because obviously there's nobody who has French and Ukrainian, so it's fine for those to be one after the next. Or actually, maybe Elle does have a bit of French, but where possible, if we could plan the agenda so that it's less likely, or there are few people as possible having their two languages one after the other, which means maybe interspacing some of the more common languages with some of the less common languages. But again, it's a bit of a high wire act.
Absolutely. I think this is very artificial because we are trying to put an agenda together. It's not a class, it's a conference. So the speakers chose different topics. So when the topics come together, it's got to be logical, in the unfolding of the conference. So it's not just a speech, a speech, a speech, a speech.
Yeah.
I mean, if it were, sorry, I should say, it would just be a class, but this is a conference. And the conference has got to be an event with speakers that are logically organized. And if you find a speaker that, and you can organize them in such a way that it's also balanced with the languages and, fine, but it's even more complicated. So I think we are grateful when we've got speakers in different languages who give their time to speak about something they feel comfortable with. So
yeah, definitely. I totally understand that. Maybe it's a case of interpreting one speech and then interpreting a chair at a slightly later point if people want to have two sort of proper goes at it.
And you've got so many opportunities to interpret from the booth, either the interpreter or the chair. So English is a common language. So at any point, everyone can interpret. And if it is in English A, they can try to interpret into a B language, for example. That's good practice as well. Or they can take notes only. Or, there's so many things you can do. So I understand that in an ideal world, this is how how it could be, but it's not a class. We're not designing the mock conferences to be done in such a way that everybody's got equal time of interpretation. The speeches are exactly the same. This would be a class. You've got your tutorials for this. The purpose of the mock conference is to experience an event which is as authentic as possible so that you can manage, your nerves. So this is the official space. And then behind the scene where you've got the booth, you can design your practice the best way you can, I would say. I don't know if this makes sense.
Yeah, I think that does, and totally fair. So that works. Moving on, there were some colleagues who said it would be nice to spend a little bit more time at the table. Just again, as you mentioned, it's a sort of simulation of a real life event, and so it would be nice to spend a bit more time at the table, and also maybe to have a few more people at the table, so that there's more people to look at, just to sort of a bit more pressure, but also a bit more realistic.
I fully agree. This is why I really insisted that we had an audience, remember? And I said, when you had friends and family, that's brilliant. So invite them because it gives you an environment which is not a class, but authentic. And for example, if you are tired and you don't want to interpret, you just want to listen, you can even take notes if you want, but you sit at the table, that's perfectly okay. You don't have to be in the booth, I fully agree with you. That's why we've got the WhatsApp group with the translators. So anything you can do to motivate people to come around the table, or you want to come around the table just for the sake of it, and you want to take your notes there, please do. And I fully agree with this. That's perfect.
That's great. I think that would be really helpful for people
Yeah.
on site, particularly. Yes, and this I think I probably know what your answer will be in advance to this then, but the last point about people said that it would be nice to know exactly which booth they were going into, either so that they can just settle in if they're there a bit earlier, or if they're running late so they know exactly where to go. Obviously, the idea is you are not running late.
I am going to hold my tongue, and I'm going to try to say, if you arrive late, you're not part of the conference, because an interpreter who arrives late, that's it, out. If you are on a job and you arrive late, your reputation is ruined forever. So you cannot arrive late. The time on the agenda is 9 o'clock. No matter what happens, you've got to be on site at 9 o'clock. So from this principle, I'm harsh, but because I want to make you realize that, as Carolina said from Interpunet, we are in a controlled environment, but you can not jump from a controlled environment to an environment that is work without experiencing this pressure, that no matter where you come from, no matter what problems you may have on the transport system, your job is 9. If there's an earthquake, send me an email or send me a WhatsApp, but you've got to anticipate that in a large city, there are going to be problems, and you've got to be there at 9. If you're not, your reputation is ruined, because, people who arrive 10 minutes before in the booth or whatever, that's it. In the booth, when we go to the commission and we go to the Court of Justice, we will arrive maybe an hour before in the meeting room. The interpreters are already there. They are already there, not just putting their coat on the coat hanger. Their computer is logged on. They've got all their devices connected, and they are ready, So this is something you need to experience there. So somebody who is late, I'm sorry, that's not possible. Or you send a message and you say, what happened. So this is, to me, is not valid, first thing. The second thing is, if you come early, you get the best place. If you go to the commission, for example, to the United Nations, you would see a booth and it would say French booth, English booth. Anton arrives early because he likes to sit in the middle. Well, okay, if he arrives late, it's not going to have the sit in the middle. If you want to have the best booth according to you, you come first, you grab your language card, you put it in the booth, and that's yours. So again, it's strategic, but that's real life. Sorry for being a little bit harsh, but this
not at all.
Employability.
No, I totally get it. I think that, yeah, a couple of people said, oh, we were there so early and we didn't do anything, but I totally agree and understand that it's good.
But if you arrive early, be proactive.
Yeah.
And set yourself up. We're moving away from the controlled area, which is the class, where you can sit anywhere you want and you're led, where you are stepping into the shoes of a professional in a semi-controlled environment, where you have to apply loads of skills that are not just interpreting, which is, let me be proactive. Where is my booth? Use there. What do I need? Where's the agenda? Is my technology on? Are there problems? Who is in charge? Who am I asking? You see what I mean? So it's from being from the controlled environment to being in charge of yourselves as professionals in a semi-controlled environment, I would say. That's the mock conference.
Great, thank you. And one final question that's not on the document. In terms of the agenda, is it ironclad and you are, so when you said a bit earlier, if people aren't happy with where their slots are, they can't, I assume, just go into the agenda and move themselves around in terms of where they are?
No, that's not possible. The agenda is an official document, and the interpreters cannot decide, if they're on or off. If you are booked as an interpreter, you're going to have an agenda that is set, and within your team, if you are doing a simultaneous, you're going to decide who does what, and depending on the language combination, maybe you're going to do a bit more than the other, or maybe in the afternoon you're working more, and in the morning, as a result, you're trying to take on a bit more. So it will be negotiated as a team in the booth. So here, you know, that's something you can do amongst yourself, but not on the day. Maybe the days before you may want to negotiate this, and that's perfectly okay. I'm happy to swap and change, you know, no problem, but not on the day. This is not the day. If you do consecutive, it's the same situation. You're going to be two interpreters perhaps, and you're going to negotiate between the two of you. But if it's already been assigned in advance, that's not something you can change. But prior, you know, that's why there's a head of agenda. You know, there are some discussions that can be possible. As I said, it's negotiated. This is your job, and it's good that you build confidence to negotiate, you know, what you do. You see where I'm coming from the real world. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely don't think anybody would be looking to change the agenda on the day. But yes, good to know. And I suppose the last question is there anything from your side, for interpreters in terms of feedback that you'd like to give that you didn't get to give last week?
No, I think that, you know, the timekeeping, that's in line with every year's experience. The first mock, you always have got a few people, you know, that are right, because we don't know. It's the first one, you know, it's normal. So then I get my big voice, you know, and I'm saying, you know, like this, like what I just did. And then the second mock, you know, everybody's aware. By the sixth mock of the eighth mock, everybody knows, you know, absolutely. And there's no more of this. But if somebody, for example, arrives late, and it's nobody in your group is like this, but it's happened in the past, you know, that I had interpreters who arrived late. I had, imagine, the European Commission representative and the United Nations representative around a table, and I had a student who arrived half an hour late with a cup of coffee. Can you imagine? He was lucky that I was sitting in my wheelchair because I was trapped basically there. And he arrived, and I looked at him and I said, out. You know, and he turned around and he left, you know, straight away. But, you know, obviously, this is not somebody I can recommend afterwards for a job. You know, and as I said, it doesn't apply to any of you, but, you know, it's something we need to know. Yeah. So timekeeping is one of the first qualities of the interpreters. And when I am asked to make recommendations, that's the first thing they ask me. It's about punctuality. So that's the first point. The second point is I thought everybody was brilliant. You looked so professional. You know, it was very smooth, and I knew you were stressed, but I thought it was so collaborative, so, you know, so good. I could see in the booth, you know, sometimes you were interpreting, at other times you were only listening. But I felt it was so professional. You know, it was really very, very good. I was so impressed, you know, with all of you. So I think now you're going to be a bit less scared because you know what to expect. So you can refine certain things and make your own decisions. That's something I would like, but not just for the mock, also for class, that you become a little bit, you know, less as students and more as stepping in the shoes of professionals who make decisions for themselves. And then negotiate things, you know, and speak up and ask questions without worrying about the question. You know, when you are an interpreter, you come in for an event and you are stepping into a team that they all know each other. It's a company, for example, and you've got to blend in straight away. So you've got to be solution focused. So if there is anything that you don't know, it's prone to become a problem. So by speaking up, by thinking, okay, this is looking a bit weird, you know, maybe we need to ask this question, or maybe I could come up with a solution. You're doing everyone a favor, and you're really taking leadership. You are acting as a professional. That's really valued. So perhaps I would say step into the confident shoes of the professional, even though we're at university.
That's great.
Thank you. What do you mean by that? Like, in terms of, could you give an example of, not to like, you know, throw everyone else in it, something that I did during the conference or in class, just to make it a bit clearer?
Yes, but for example, it's going to come with practice. But for example, it was our third session in simultaneous interpreting yesterday, but everybody sat around the table waiting to be told, now you need to go to the booth. It will come with practice. I can tell you that in the second semester, you will go straight to the booth. It's normal. What you're doing is normal. There's nothing wrong. But for example, that time between when you arrive to when we start, again, it's normal. You do the normal thing all students do, thinking, okay, I arrived early. Why? Why did I arrive early? What for? So, okay, where is the card? What booth am I settled down? Is my screen working? All these kind of things. So that once I am set up, I can have a cup of coffee. That's no problem. If somebody arrives, are you okay? Is there something you need? Who is in charge? Who is leading the process? So this is why these responsibilities that we give you, we're going to talk about them now, it's forcing you to step up a little bit and to lead. I love my students when they graduate, and they are well known for this, to be leaders, not to be scared, but just to go. It's not that you want to boss people around. You are professionals, part of a team, and you want it to work, so you're solution focused. Does this make sense? Yeah. Dana.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. I will start with the quickest one. And in order to guide the speakers, how long will the speeches be this time? Same 4 minutes or a little bit longer?
Yeah. So we only keep 4 minutes because this way everybody can have a go, because we've got a number of languages and we don't want to make the conference super long. We've before in the past, we had conferences that went on for 8 hours, where we had chunks of 2 hours, to make sure that all the language combinations could have a go. We could decide not to have French, for example, or not to have from English into, so that we can gain something. But in a sense, I think it's a little bit of a shame, so French is a language that loads of you have, and the English A's can't interpret from the English interpretation. So I think it optimizes, the English A's practice in a sense. And I think it's a shame not to do the English speech also, because then you've got a chance at the end to go into all the other languages. So, but we could do that. We could also change the format of the mock conference. Like in the second semester, for example, but it's easier to do with simultaneous, we have a debate after the speeches. So we have the speeches, la, 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 la. Now let's have a debate. And you don't know who's going to speak. And then the translation students, they come in, or audience comes in, and they ask loads of questions in different languages. That's easy with simultaneous, but it's a bit more difficult to do with Consec. But we could think of a different format. So this format we said to students, maybe not everybody's going to have a go, but whoever didn't have a go this time, for the second mock, they will be the priority. So over the 2 mocks, everybody would have a go.
Okay. And the other 2 questions, one is related to the order of the speeches as we have on that right now in the agenda. And the other question is related to a little bit more guidance for us to have on what our roles entail. But I think you've mentioned this before, that you're going to talk about that. And that's everything.
Brilliant questions. Thank you very much, Dana. Your group is so good, but you don't know how good you are. Normally, these roles, they only come in the second semester. But you are already so good, and such a good group, working together, that I only said, okay, let's have a head of speakers, but then straight away you're embracing the other roles, which shows, how brilliant you are. You are doing much more this year. I've never had a group that does as much as this year's in terms of organizing the conference, managing it, finding speakers. So I can only say congratulations, to all of you. It's really brilliant. I'm watching this, I'm gobsmacked, basically. So the roles are brilliant because it's going to give you a chance to be in the role of leaders, you know, so we explain this normally in the second semester. So let me give you a little bit more of a brief on this, you know. So I try to give roles so that you work together as a team of leaders, so that you learn how to communicate, because in real life you will have to communicate a lot, you know, and you will have to agree, disagree, look at miscommunication, find solutions again. So the head of speaker works together closely with the head of the agenda. Okay, so the head of the agenda is in charge of the document, the agenda. But obviously, the head of the agenda needs to speak to the head of speakers, because this is how it's going. So for example, you talked about alternating the bigger languages, you know, with the, you know, the perhaps languages where we have fewer students. That's great. This is the head of speakers and the head of agenda. They're going to do this. They're going to balance everything. They're going to look at the speakers and say, but this point, the topic of this, we can't have it as a last speaker because it's not logical. It has to be logical. So we've got two themes: immigration by force, immigration by choice. So we've got some constraints. And then within this, what is the order of the speakers? What can they speak about? So in the chat, for example, in the WhatsApp group, you said, can we have a second speaker who still wants to talk about the political stand on this? Absolutely. If you feel that your speakers, they don't feel like speaking about what you had in mind, but what they have in mind is very good and they know about it, go for it. That's perfectly fine. So the two heads are speaking. It doesn't mean they make all the decisions. They can consult everyone in the WhatsApp group and ask the questions, but then they are the final people who negotiate the final answers. Does this make sense? Okay. So if on the day I've got a problem with the agenda, I know I'm going to see the head of agenda. If on the day I've got a problem with the speakers, are they here? Are they online? Are they on site? Did they send their keywords? Have they done their recording? I'm going to see the head of speakers. So the head of speakers doesn't do everything, but he's the person who you go to see, you know, to discuss speakers. It's your reference point. Does this make sense, Dana, as well for you? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, then we've got a head of technology. This is to try to give you more confidence in managing the technology. So it's not just me and my magic, you know, here. It's good to demystify things, especially when people say, I'm not good with technology. The more you say it, the more you believe it. But actually, the technology is not that difficult. And as a profession, we need to be engaged in the technology. So for whoever wants this, so if Teresa, for example, was interesting, Zahira, you came as well, you know, and yesterday between 10 and 10:30, I just showed the technology. So it doesn't mean you're going to do all the technology by yourself and you're going to be left alone, you know. I'll be behind in the background, but you will be in charge. So we meet before, what do you need, la, 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 la. And on the day, it's to give you the confidence to manage the technology. In the second semester, you will have to set up the interpreters online on site. So the head of technology will have to use his confidence on the day and to say, okay, it's 9:30, we start at 10 o'clock. Is everybody in the booth? Yes. Okay, I am now going to test the on-site students, the on-site interpreters, English booth. Can you speak for a few? Okay, I can hear you very well. Can everybody hear the relay in English? Yes, no, that's great. You move on from one booth to the next. Right, thank you very much. I've got it, you know, firm statements. You're in charge, you know. So again, solution focused. If you've got a leader that's, you know, that's got a good voice and not bossing people around, but leads, then you're okay. And so this is a chance to do this. Then on-site, online interpreters, are you all there? Can you please have your cameras on? I want to see you. Fine. Are you all okay? I'm not going to test the Spanish booth. First of all, are all the interpreters renamed, correctly? I'm going to test it. I can't hear you. Go back again. And sometimes we have some guest online interpreters, and they don't know much. Believe me, not many universities do this. So they will have to adjust a bit. Give them some chance. I can't hear you now. I'll leave you to it. I'll come back to you later. Moving on. You see what I mean? And on the day of the mock conference, we always have got technical issues, no matter how much we prepare. That's perfectly okay as well. We will just find the solutions. Well, troubleshooting, basically. Is this all right? So again, leading, negotiating, communicating. And later on, as professional interpreters, you may want to become in charge of the technology. So for example, what's her name? Lakisa, she just consulted me to buy a tour guide system. Now she's bought a tour guide system, and she's known to be the interpreter with the tour guide system, that the equipment can be hired from her. Or you could be a consultant interpreter. You can be head of team. All this, you can earn more money. You will charge for these services. Okay. Then the head of event. So the head of event is the person who is in charge of everything. So for example, on the day, I only need to speak to one person, and it's the head of event. And the head of event should know, is the head of tech okay? Is the head of the agenda okay? Is the head of speakers okay? So we arrived at 9, 10:30, we start. I am not going to start before the head of event says, I'm consulting, head of event, is everything okay? The head of event comes to see me and says, yes, we can start now. I press web stream, and then we are on. Okay. And it's the same. It's the person I go to for anything to do with the organization. Does this make sense? You don't have to do it if you feel it's too soon as well. As I said, it's the first time we have it in the first semester, but brilliant. Does it sound feasible, doable? Do you want to backtrack and not do it? Or do you feel it's too much? Or are you okay? Yeah, you're okay, Zahira? You seem to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I think it will become clearer as I do it, but I think it'll be fine. As you say, it's a group effort. So I think it's too easy. It'd be nice to have two of us looking at technology together, and I can back her up, and so. Yeah.
But for example, if you are the head of event, maybe you're not going to be the first interpreter to interpret, because you're going to be on the go, and you need just to let go a little bit before you interpret,
Yeah, that sounds sensible.
Have I answered all the questions? We're okay? Fantastic. Any other?
Yeah, the role of the head of team / interpreters, which is Harriet's role this time. Can we talk about her?
Of course. I think in this case, because we are now in a hybrid mode, but we've got distance learning students who are always online. So it could be good to have, but this is for you to decide, for all of us to decide together. We could have a head of interpreters online, head of interpreters on site, perhaps. Yeah, because sometimes, Harriet, you are always online, and the online interpreters use the chat or the WhatsApp group, and the on-site interpreters may not be looking at the chat. But if you're online, that's all you've got. Just an idea.
We've all got a sort of, I think we've got several WhatsApp groups, but yes, it's true that it might be handy on the day just to have somebody who is in case interpreters aren't looking at, or if I'm not there, I can't see somebody. I'm not there to answer a question immediately. Although I'll be obviously as available as possible.
Just to avoid the idea that you are Harriet, Roxanne, or Isabel, and you think, oh my God, I've got a problem and I'm sending a message in this void, knowing that there's a person in charge of the distance learning or the online team could be quite good. It could be comforting to know that you've got a reference point. Something that I can do for the next mock is something that we only do in the second semester when we've got a team sheet. And the team sheet, normally you describe the booth, the interpreters in each booth, the interpreters, and so you can see who interprets. I'm happy to do a team sheet if you want, so that it already introduces you to who is online. And when we do the team sheet, we have parallels online, on-site. So at one glance, you can see who the interpreters are, in what booth. Are they online today? Are they on-site today? Because the on-site students may want to be online on the day, for example.
I think that could be really useful, actually.
Yeah.
I think, and if nothing else, just get used to looking at a document like that, which we'll see.
Yeah, I'll do this then. I'll do the
Thank you.
team sheet.
I agree, because I feel like if that's the sort of thing that's going to get introduced in simultaneous, I feel like there's so much like language ranges and stuff I find so complicated.
Yeah.
So if we get used to it while we're with Consec, I think that would be really reassuring.
I'll do this. I'll use a template we'll use for the next semester. And in the next semester, I'll show you what the team sheet looks like for the EU and the UN, for example. So you would already be used to ours, in a sense. So I'll do it this way rather than the other way around. Oh, perfect. That's good. So are we all okay with the first point, organization, making change? Are there other changes that you would like to make? No? Are you going to have some people watching as well, having an audience? If you could motivate people to come here, that would be really useful. Again, I'll use a WhatsApp group. But there are only 8 students on the MA interpreting, and not many on the on the MA translation, and on the BA translation as well. So there are not many students. So, but whoever speaks languages, invite them. Even if you've got friends or people who are interpreters from other universities, they want to practice with you or something like that, do invite them. It's perfectly fine. Okay, great. Shall we have a look at the agenda then? Okay. I'm not going to be chairing this session. Who wants to be the chair? So, oh yeah, head of agenda. So Dana, come on, you lead the session.
Okay, let's go. Firstly, all of the speeches have been, well, one hasn't been confirmed, but we have all the speakers with their speeches. My first doubt is the order of the speeches, one after the other. And the second question I had was like, well, we can go first with that one, if the order makes
Would you
sense.
like to share? Would you like to share your screen?
Oh yeah, okay. Let me. Mm. Wait a second, I've just realized that I have to check on my settings since this is a new laptop.
Like me to share it?
Okay, yes. Yes, please.
So this is the folder, and I'm going to the agenda. And this is the agenda, right? Okay.
Yes. So if you scroll a little bit down, in the morning we have 4 speeches, starting with Arabic, then Ukrainian, Italian, and German. And the first speech is introductory, and I think it's perfect for starting. And then my doubt is that the Ukrainian speech, it's a little bit more focused, because we have another that has a focus in Austria, and maybe the Ukrainian speech can be the last speech in the morning, maybe, because there are two that are connected. They
I
tell
agree.
me when it ends German one.
Yeah, I agree that in terms of logic, the political perspectives perhaps would be before, the the perspectives from the host nations. But we need to find out whether this is a recording, or is the person going to be live, and can this person stay until the end?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we will ask Elle,
And also
and
because
yeah.
Elle will be in Ukraine,
Mm.
I know she has to go to find a place where it's safe for her and there is electricity and all these kind of things. So you need to check with her whether she can stay the whole mock, or maybe it is easier for her to be at the beginning, at least, to make sure she's there.
Mhm.
So if she's confident that she can stay until the end of the morning session, then we can move it. But if she's not, then we can make it work, and turn it round, really.
Yeah, of course. Okay, and then the afternoon session will be the one with 3 speeches, and I think the order is quite okay. I think my doubt was mainly within the morning session. The last one is there, but it's probably not going to be done by any speaker.
I think here the migration as an opportunity, this makes me think of an argument that we use to have migrants by force, in a sense, rather than migrants by choice. So is a speech going to be really about migration by choice, a bit of both? Do we know the content of the speech here in Spanish?
No, she's my friend and still hasn't sent me anything, so I don't know.
So perhaps we can give her the context that it's migration by choice in the afternoon. She can also mention by force, but maybe this main focus could be choice, or she can do a parallel, But if it had been a parallel, perhaps it would have been good to have it as a first speech of the day, of the afternoon, because it would be like a connection with the
I
morning.
know she will send a recording because she can be here that day, so I guess it doesn't really matter. We can just put whenever we prefer.
So depending on the context, if there is a by choice, by force, it could make a nice link with the morning session. And then because the 3 other topics, they are really lovely topics, they are independent topics with migration and I'm just thinking as well about the second one, gentrification and growth, migration's role in shaping host societies. Isn't this to do again with migration by force?
I think it's more related to expats, but yes, I see what you mean now. But I don't think this speech it hasn't been chosen by anybody, and I don't think nobody had an interest in doing this speech. So it was in the pool of ideas. We had like 8 or 9 different ideas of topics, so the speakers could have a say in what they wanted to do. So this one wasn't chosen. I just left it there because of the template, but I don't think we'll have the chance to do this one. Is that
Yep.
okay?
Of course it's okay. Yes, because you're chairing, I was leaving you the freedom to give Harriet the floor.
Ah, Harriet, you have the floor.
Sorry, I hope I'm not throwing a spanner in the works, but there's a subject that's not being covered by anyone because there's nobody left. I was just wondering what the particular interest is of having the same subject covered twice in the morning. I know it's from a global and then from a national perspective, but is it just because both speakers chose the same topic and we don't want to ask them to, we feel uncomfortable asking them to change their mind? Or I just wonder if, like, what the interest of that is, if there's other really useful topics, because it's not balanced in terms of the migration by choice, migration by force in the afternoon, is it? We could quite do with someone covering that last topic because I think it's quite interesting. Maybe questions might arise as to why we've got two topics the same in the morning and then we're kind of unbalanced in the afternoon. I don't want to be just sort of playing devil's advocate a bit here.
I can answer that. It's because the Austrian/German speaker is my friend, and she just said that she well, she like chose the topic and then turns out the Italian one had already been spoken. But I feel like they would kind of give different perspectives. And also if the point remains that we've got a bonus, like if it's 9 topics and 8 speeches, I'm not very good at maths, then surely there's still a balance of 4 and 4, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's just 3, isn't it, in the afternoon so far though? If no one were to take this gentrification and growth topic.
Yes, but in the last one, in the last conference, I mean, we did have 3 speeches only in the afternoon because we have 7 languages, so it will always kind of be imbalanced. But I think somebody asked if we could have 2 speeches in the same language, but I don't know if that will be too difficult to do now. I'm not sure. Luisa, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, I put my hand up before Emily mentioned that, but I did agree with her point that maybe it's not too much of a bad thing to have 2 speakers doing the same subject, especially on the subject which it's concerning, because the topic which has currently got 2 speakers is literally political perspectives. So it might actually be a benefit to have 2 different perspectives. The only one from the forced migration topic that's missing so far is crossing borders, the perils of forced migration. So, I mean, we could even ask them to maybe try and tie in like that topic within their own perspective that they're giving about migration flows in Europe. So maybe
Which topic are you referring to right now? The crossing. Which one exactly? Where is it?
It's not on here actually. I've just noticed it as well. So there's one of the topics in the morning hasn't actually been chosen by anyone, and it's called Crossing Borders. And it's not been chosen because we've now got 2 people who have chosen the topic about perspectives. If you know what I mean.
Yes, I'm just checking the previous list because I think after everybody chose, I deleted a topic, and I think it might be that one. But I'm just going to the brainstorming document we had before. Yes, crossing borders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it now. So you mean that, and which speaker would do that speech?
That's the thing. No one's chosen that one. So we do have 4 speeches in the morning already. And that one's kind of just been left out because we've opted to go for the second perspective on political perspectives. But what we could do to try and include that point maybe is to ask them to kind of touch on crossing borders, because I can see how they kind of could link anyway.
Yeah, I think for stars, I think first of all, the speaker should be able to freely choose their topic, and if I think it's Emily's contact. If they have chosen this topic, it's because they know more about it and they want to share their opinion, and also it's a benefit for us because we can focus more into one topic. And I don't know, sometimes when I practice, I like to, for instance, if we focus on the recycling, then we focus on recycling. If we focus on migration, then we can focus on this one thing and then work on other interpreting things that we have to work on. So yeah, those are my two views. I think yeah, sorry, that was everything. You still have your hand up, or Emily, do you wanna take the floor?
Sorry, I had another thing to say, but I forgot it, so don't worry.
Ah, okay. Okay. So mm, mm, mm. Yeah, let me go to the agenda again.
Can I jump back in with my point? Sorry, I
Sorry.
just remembered.
Yeah, okay, take the floor.
Sorry. So there was someone briefly mentioned the potential to have another speech in like the same language. Moving on from the previous point, as in forget that, I'm talking about something else. Like, would it be an option to have two speeches in Spanish? If there's a slot that's empty on the agenda, and then that would kind of solve the problem of there being a lot of people speaking Spanish, and then maybe we could have even a different chair language. I don't know. And I know we'll probably be tired in the afternoon and everything, but just throwing it out there, is that an option?
Yes, I was also gonna ask about the chair. We had doubts before because being chair is quite tricky for the chair, and they have to have some kind of knowledge, I believe, and also knowledge of interpreting. So I don't know if we can, if the chair was Spanish again, can we ask Blanca again if she's available, of course, or an ambassador from another year maybe. But is that, I don't think we can ask a friend to be chair, for instance. I don't think that would be advisable. So, Danielle, please take the floor.
Thank you. Yes, I would say that, for example, if I chaired in French, we could remove the French speech if you wanted, and that leaves space for Spanish to have two speeches so that you don't have to have a chair in Spanish. And so that the interpreters don't just do the chair, for Spanish, but they have two speeches. Just a thought. I'm happy, for example, to chair the whole thing, in French if you want me to. It's not a problem. Other people could do the chair. There could be, for example, I don't know, one of the Italians from last year, but Teresa would, she's alone, so that's a little bit difficult, perhaps, for her to interpret the whole chair. But it's also a good practice. Yes, we can ask also perhaps Iba if she wants to be a chair in Arabic. So that could be also something else. We could also have, for example, in the morning to have two chairs, one that covers the beginning, speech one, speech two, and then have a chair that covers speech three and speech four, for example, so that we've got more opportunities for interpreters to do the chair. But I think it would be great practice for you, the students, to be chairs. So why looking for another Spanish chair when we've got so many Spanish contributors in the group? And then you would practice your conference language in Spanish. You would practice your analytical skills and summarizing as well. So that could be quite good. And in the same way, at the end, when we've got a speech in English, we may have one of us English, well, not me, but one of you English aides, I should say, doing that conclusive remarks. And that would be a very good practice as well. These are just ideas.
Emily, you have your hand raised.
So just like I think that's a really good idea, and I think it's also fun to get involved in Chaz. I thought I'd get off the hook by being an English A, but then you said it at the end, so I'm not off the hook. But anyway, if on the screen right now there's this one about rolling, all I can see is role in shaping host societies. Most probably will not be done, but that's a space on the agenda, right? So does that mean that there should be a speech there? Because could we just have another Spanish speech and then so there's two Spanish speeches, we still keep the French one. Then that solves all the problems you were saying. If there's the slot anyway, and then we could have an Arabic chair in the morning or something.
Or if you remove the French speech, because French is not a formal language in this thing, and we've got the French chair, then the French is on the chair, and then you've got speech for space for two Arabic speeches, perhaps, or two Italian speeches, or I mean, Teresa's by herself, or two Ukrainian again, she's by herself. What are the other languages when people are two groups of twos? German, for example.
Portuguese.
So Portuguese, yes, we could have two Portuguese speeches or two Arabic speeches or two, you know.
So that slot is potentially free for another speech.
Well, if you want, I'm happy to do the chair for the whole time if you wanted, even though I'm happy to do only half of it and you to be chairs, you know. But I'm just thinking to have a little bit of French, but we don't need to have a lot of French because it's not an official language in this module, but at least there are some opportunities. And then you have opportunities for two speeches in the other languages. So, you know, there's a bit more time around the table, which is what you wanted as well.
I guess the question is, would anybody be happy to volunteer to find a speaker? As like, because we've got only not that long left now. Are we happy to find a speaker in that another slot? Like, could anybody volunteer for that now?
Head of speakers perhaps could say something.
Oh, yes, I do like the idea of potentially having a French chair, and then finding a second having a second speech with like a repeated language. I think that's a good idea. If we take German, for example, because it is as well one of my languages, German could be a good option. So it then gives me the chance I can myself try and find someone to do the extra speech, but then it also gives Isabel and Catty the opportunity to do a bit more as well, because I think it was just Catty doing one German speech on the floor last time, and me and Isabel didn't get to work that much with German. So that's just one of my ideas, but obviously it's coming from me as an interpreter as well. So you can let me know what your ideas are. But the same thing with Portuguese, if it's kind of the next language down that has a few more speakers, we could maybe give the other speech to a Portuguese speaker. Happy to take any input.
Well, I think as you're not sharing that little session about, you know, the speakers, maybe you want to give the floor to the people who may want to contribute right now. So I'm putting the chair in your hands.
Thank you, Harriet. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Just putting a word in for Portuguese. So we can maybe ask Robert to do it. That would mean, however, we've got two European Portuguese speeches.
Not Robert. Robert is got a lot right now.
Fine.
So I'm trying to relieve him from quite a few things. So I don't want to ask him to do a speech, but we had Joao. He can give us another speech. Come on, Joao. You know, that's no problem at all.
Or even one of the Brazilian interpreters in this group, seeing as there are 3 Portuguese this time round.
Yes, and also there's going to be a virtual class with Porto, and so we could give them a chance to participate in a conference and connect with us. But in exchange, we want a Portuguese speech.
We could just to obviously it goes against my first idea of Robert, but it would be quite good to have not just European Portuguese. If we're going to have 2 speeches, we've already got European Portuguese. So particularly as 2 of the 3 Portuguese students this year are Brazilian Portuguese speakers, it would be good to have somebody either Brazilian Portuguese or Angola, Mozambique, just maybe not 2 European Portuguese speeches.
I think we are being very picky here, you know, about accents and things like that. You know, it's quite difficult already to find a speaker. So I would say try to go for what you've got, because if you're that picky, you're going to delay the process, and it can be quite difficult, maybe.
I'm happy for I do European Portuguese, so I'm very happy. But I know the other two. I would be pleased if it were a bit more.
Yes,
balanced.
but they have to get used to European Portuguese in the same way that the European Portuguese have got to get used to Brazilian, because in a conference, you cannot be happy or not happy. You've got to cope with it all. Same thing with Spanish, with French, and we have to cover all the countries that speak our language.
Dana, would you like to add something?
Yes, I think it was related to that. I think it does depend on what we've already got. And I don't know if anybody right now had a second speaker. Um, did you have like a second option of a speaker that could do in any language another speech, and any of you? Because I know for me, no. So okay, I don't think so then.
That's fine. I could reach out to some of my contacts, because it was actually Emily that found Portuguese and the German speaker. So it means I still have kind of speakers stored up, if you like. So I can definitely kind of reach out if
Okay.
we are deciding on certain languages.
Okay. I think
Oh, sorry to interrupt here, but Roberto came last time, and maybe he can also give us a speech, or maybe if he can come a little for the time he's with us, he can chair in German as well. Just a thought, but I know he's very good at making speeches. He's always happy to make a speech or chair, so just a thought.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really great idea. Dana.
yes. I've just looked at the agenda, and I saw that there are no Spanish speeches in the morning, so it is daunting, but I would like to volunteer to chair, maybe not the whole morning, but maybe a couple of interventions. I think that would be, yeah, that would be good to learn, and yeah, but it is daunting. So I think I'll ask Blanca for advice on how to do it.
But before, all students were contributors. We didn't have any external speakers. All the students were the people who were making the speeches. So it's good, very good practice. So Dana, yes, it's daunting. Go for it. Absolutely. So decide when you want to be a chair, whatever. But yeah, I can only encourage you all, to take an active part as a speaker if you want to as well.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for.
Do you want to decide? So, sorry. I'm
No,
just leading.
thanks
I'm not the leader. Sorry, I can't put my hand up virtually because I'm sharing my. Got my hand up.
Yes, Danielle, sorry for interrupting.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Dana, do you want already to decide? Shall we decide where you're going to chair?
I can start. I can do definitely the introduction and the first transition. I don't know if it will lower my stamina a lot if I do all the transitions in the morning. So I'm not sure if I really want to chair the whole morning, but since I've never done it before, but yeah, I don't know. Can you give me some kind of advice on that?
I would suggest that in meetings we have co-chairs, so a chair and a co-chair. So, for example, there can be co-chairs. So you could announce that we are going to we are co-chairs for the whole day, and that the meeting will be chaired from this time to this time So perhaps if you start. You've got your 4 minutes here to plan, and that would be good to introduce the context, but also the asylum seeker status, for example, remembering the definition of the Geneva Convention, 1941. So you've got a little bit to say here, Or do you feel more comfortable with closing when you have to listen, to what's happening and you condense the information and you draw some conclusions or you prepare some questions?
I think it will be easier for me this time to start. Yeah, definitely.
So perhaps you can start and then do the second one as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Okay.
from there, we can have another chair. And another chair could be one of you as well, having a go again at chairing. I'm happy to do it, but I'm happy to do anything you want me to do. But if you wanted to also have a go at chairing, it's a good practice.
Thank you for putting yourself forward, Dana. I think you'll do a great job. Definitely.
Thank you.
So just to kind of organize our thoughts a bit more. So we've got Spanish chair for the first part of the morning and a Spanish speech in the afternoon. Do we think that's enough Spanish for the day?
I think it is, right? I mean, we will have to give a chance for other languages. I think we have lots of Spanish in the last conference, right?
Yeah, definitely. So in that case, I'd say kind of prioritize even more getting that second language in for the other speech. And our options could be, yeah, Portuguese, German, potentially even maybe not a second French speech because, like Danielle said, it's actually not an official language. Yeah.
For me, I am quite conscious that, for example, Hasna didn't have a chance to come around the table, so she's a priority. And she has to interpret. Sorry, Hasna, I'm saying she, but you're in the room, so I want to say you. So I just want to make sure Arabic is there, so that's straight away Hasna, can interpret and feel what it's like, because for her it will be her first experience around the table.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for flagging this. We've not forgotten you, Hasna. I think Roxanne's giving an Arabic speech quite early on, so it will be down to you to interpret this one. That also might make it even more important to potentially include Arabic in the afternoon so that Roxanne also gets a chance interpreting as well as giving the speech. And then Hasna, you can do it as well again in the booth as well. So it's not just limited to that one 4-minute section. Yeah. Anyone got a strong preference for any of these ideas?
If
Danielle?
we're, oh, sorry. If we are lacking some Arabic slots, then should we, in the morning, there's the first speech Roxanne does, and then has the interprets, and then in the last two speeches, we could use that chair, that are the Arabic chair that we mentioned before. Is that a possibility?
Danielle.
I think we've got to think about the time for Roxanne. So perhaps if she could interpret as early as possible in the morning so that she's not too tired as well.
So it could be a possibility then to have that. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
To have a chair in Arabic after me in the morning, in the morning session.
That's exactly what I was about to say to you, Dana. Thank you for that. And Maria, would you like to add anything?
Yes, because I was thinking that maybe doing speech, and even though maybe Dana's going to be after Roxanne, her doing speech and then interpreting is going to be a bit too much or too close. So maybe she could record herself so we can play her speech whenever, and she has a bit of a clearer mind when she has to interpret.
Are you talking about me? Maria?
Wait, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
are you
was, I was
talking
saying
about recording the chair, you mean?
recording Roxanne. She
Ah,
could record
Roxanne.
the
Okay.
speech. So she's, yeah, has a clearer mind when she has to interpret and doesn't really have to worry about being there if
Oh,
it's
yeah.
too late.
Sorry. Sorry.
Danielle, please.
Also, another way of not making her too tired is ask her to record the speech. So we play the
That's
recording.
what I meant.
Ah,
Sorry.
that's what you meant. Oh, okay. I hadn't understood. Sorry about that. I'm just landing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is all very great ideas. So in that case then we could ask Roxanne if she could record the first speech, and then that would leave us maybe, is it two or three transitions in Arabic after Dana? So there would be an Arabic transition uh, after the Spanish speech, after the Italian speech, but then we would also need to have that person conclude it as well. So I'm not sure if three kind of transitions as well as a speech might be too much for our two Arabic speakers. Let me know what you think. Danielle.
When we have co-chairs, it doesn't mean that you've got one chair that does two and another chair who does three. You can have, for example, two, and another chair as well, so that's perfectly fine. So if it is too much for an Arabic, chair to do three, either Dana can come back if she wants to. I'm giving you some jobs, Dana. Or it could be yet another language to conclude.
Okay, thank you for introducing this idea as well. In this case, I think it would also be nice to maybe have a German transition. So maybe we could then split the morning between Arabic, Spanish, and then a little bit of German. We'd have to do some maybe some organization so that it then doesn't overlap with the German speech. And then that would leave us with the extra speech in the afternoon. We could then have Portuguese for that.
Yeah, I think we can now have like take a couple of days to ask and find speakers and chairs and other possibilities of languages. So is that okay? Like, should we take a couple of a day or two to find those, and then we can finalize the agenda and the other chairs, co-chairs, maybe other people who hasn't been in this meeting, they want to be chairs as well. Um, so how about that? Harriet, sorry, you have your hand raised.
It was just in case I've been too pushing the Portuguese agenda too hard. By all means, invert that and do some Portuguese transitions. And if there's more German speakers and there's more, you've got somebody up your sleeve, Louisa, for example, by all means, do the second speech in German, particularly if people were left out last time, and flip it round. I think, whatever, it really doesn't, as long as everybody gets some sort of a go, but as Danielle said, maybe not everyone's going to get a go this time, and it's sort of next time round. Most of us have got two languages, so yeah, I'm just backing off a bit with the with the Portuguese, having sort of pushed it. If whoever's got willing speakers, obviously let them do it, and we can kind of work around it.
Yeah, no worries. That sounds great. I think as Dana said, maybe we do need to kind of have a think about it now. Maybe write it down, see how it looks visually so we can really picture the structure, and then move it around from there. And it'll also give us a day or two to see if we do have anyone for German, Portuguese, and the Arabic chair as well. Any other comments? Danielle, sorry, you're not popping to the top of my screen with a physical.
Oh, sorry about this. As a chair, ask Iba, because Iba attended the tutorial last time. And so I don't know, Hasna, is she going to attend the mock conference this time? Sorry?
I don't know. We haven't spoken yet about that because we didn't have a lesson with Eva last weekend, but I definitely can ask her this week
Yeah,
about
if
that.
perhaps ask her, and then you can tell us if she's going to attend. Then if she doesn't mind being, the co-chair for 2 transitions, because she can still listen to you. That's not a problem. And that could be an easy way of having our chair.
And Roxanne can interpret the chair, the Arabic chair.
Yeah.
Eba. Okay,
Yeah.
I see. All right, no worries. I'll let them know. Thank you.
And perhaps you can already pencil the name of the potential chairs we've got in mind on the agenda.
We could do that now if that works for everyone. Just quickly, because I'm also aware actually that we've got a French tutorial starting, which I forgot about. So at the top, Dana, did you put your name in already? Did I see?
As chair, yes.
Yeah, amazing. So should we pencil in Eba for a couple of transitions so that we can then check?
If you just write to be confirmed, in between brackets, so we know it's not yet confirmed. I think what would be very useful for the chair is to know when the speakers are going to be live, or is it going to be a recording, or are they on site? So every time on the agenda you've got, the speaker, if you could write on site, online, live, or recording. So for the head of tech, they know that if it is a recording, they've got to do something. For me, I need to know that if the person comes on site for the reception, I need to leave a badge.
Okay, definitely, yeah. We'll sort that out.
Yeah. Dana, I'll speak with you to combine the head of speakers and head of chair, and then we can add these details in the next couple of days. And if anyone else kind of decides they would like to add an extra comment or request, then you can just let us know. Yeah.
Okay, so now because you've got a tutorial, so perhaps the head of speakers and the head of the agenda can close the meeting the way you want to, with some follow-up actions, so that we understand where we're going.
Okay, yeah, well, just what Louisa said, we have to find some chair volunteers, maybe another potential speaker. We can repeat a language or find, yeah, mostly maybe Portuguese, as Harriet has mentioned, and then also update the online on-site label on the agenda, and that's our next step.
Okay, perhaps if we could be a little bit clearer where the chairs in other languages would be, so that we understand what we need to tell the potential chairs straight away as well. That would be quite useful,
Yes. So the Eva could chair the second half or 2 interventions in the morning. And either she or I can close the morning session, and then in the afternoon, I think Louisa has mentioned a chair. Louisa?
Oh yeah. I'm happy if Roberto is coming on the day, I'm happy to ask him to maybe co-chair an afternoon as well. Or even kind of a little bit of the morning if you wanted to take some of the pressure off yourself if you are interpreting as well. So I can reach out to Roberto, and then we need to just think about.
Sorry to interrupt you. He teaches in the afternoon. He could only stay with us for a short while because he's got a class afterwards. So I maybe ask him about that, sorry.
Okay, I'll check with him, but ideally maybe for him it would be German in the morning then. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And so what other language, I'm just rushing because I'm just aware of the time. What other language would you need in terms of the speech in the afternoon? Because
should we say
and do you want me to chair at any point? That's all I need to know. And who's going to do that English thing as well at the end?
Should we say the extra speech goes to Portuguese? Is there any disagreement with that? Okay, so mission is to find an extra Portuguese speaker. It can be anyone. I can also reach out to a colleague. So we can just communicate on the group chat as soon as you've asked someone or you've found someone, and we can have an extra Portuguese speech there.
Also, just perhaps to remember that we have Aretha. Her wife came to see her last time, so maybe she's free at this time, and she would accept as well to do something.
Yeah, we can ask Aretha. Yeah. Okay.
And somebody from the last speech in English? Anybody who wants to do it or not? It's up to you.
Can I just confirm whether that last conclusive remarks is 4 minutes as well, or should it be longer?
So, yeah, it's 4 minutes usually, but it can be a little bit shorter as well. It doesn't have to be 4 minutes on the dot, but 4 minutes would be good.
In that case, I'm happy to give it a go. You can pencil me in. If anyone else would like to jump in there, please do.
Okay, so there won't be any French then on that in the conference. Just a speech. Perfect. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Congratulations to the chairs for this meeting. Well done. Perfect. I'm going to now stop the recording and let you go to your tutorial. Well done. Very good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I've hidden my tool bar to stop the recording and to stop sharing. I don't know where it's gone.
We're already in the stretch session.
Okay, so where is my stop the recording thing panel?
Here's where you have a look at my expanded glossary and tell me if all the words I've made are right.
Okay, so
Wait, I have 3 papers actually.
Okay.
Wow. So that's the first one. The second one is read out the glossary in Spanish, like you did last time. And then
sorry, I'm trying to close the meeting and the recording, but it's proving more difficult. I can't find the I've hidden the commands. And then they
Thank you,
don't read.
Lydia. I'm
You're
leaving as
welcome.
well. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, so it is. I'm closing this. So where is it gone? Ah, okay, back.